Okay, want to do roll?
I call this meeting of the Citizens Transportation Advisory Committee to order, and if you would call the roll, please.
Thank you. Henry Sharpenberg?
Here.
Matthew Rowe?
Present.
Tamara Banks is not here. She's at a conference in Virginia Beach. Morgan Birch also is unable to attend. John Castellarin?
Here.
Justin Chenault? Jacob Clay? Micah Cunningham? Tara Durant is remote this evening.
Is she online?
Yes, I saw.
Okay.
Great. Welcome, Tara. Patricia Encarnacion. Rupert Farley is remote. Are you with us, Mr. Farley? Glenn Goldsmith is also remote this evening.
Here, present.
Great. Larry Gross. Jerron Hayes is remote this evening as well. Neil Holleran is remote as well. Michael Hoyt. Travis King.
Somebody said something.
Yes. Mr. Hoyt, are you online with us by any chance?
This is Neil Holleran. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
That was Neil.
Great, Neil.
A little bit broken, but improving.
Good. Nicholas Kwatnowski.
Here.
Welcome with the rough weather. David McLaughlin is remote, I believe.
That is correct.
Dave, are you there? Okay.
Great. Ken Poe. James Powell just came in from the rain. Justin Savage. David Swan.
Present.
Here. Rodney Thomas, I believe, is also remote this evening, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, Rodney is here.
Great. We have our remote captioner tonight is Tina Stevenson. Jane Leeds, are you on with us remotely this evening? Awesome. Okay, might be the call-in. And I'd like to introduce
Jane.
as far as. Great, is that you, Jane?
Yes, Jane. I'm sorry, I had a little trouble getting on.
Great, I'm so glad to hear your voice, and I'm glad you're safe at home and not venturing out in this rainstorm. And tonight, yeah. Well, we have Coley Tizell manning the computer. Becky Golden, myself, is here. I'd like to introduce Dr. John Rideout, who's joining us tonight, a new staff member at FAMPO, and is here this evening as well. And we have a guest from the Potomac News. Potomac Local News. And what is your name, sir?
Rick Horner.
Rick Horner, great. Is anyone here tonight whose name I've not called? You do have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay, then the first action item that we'll address is item number 3, approval of the CTAC agenda. Can I have a motion that we approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
David Swan, second.
The initial motion was made by Matt Rowe, second by David Swan. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Approval is unanimous. Okay. Review of the 27 June Policy Committee meeting, if you would, please.
Okay, how about the meeting minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep doing that. I apologize.
That's all right. I'll keep you straight.
Please. Okay, item number 4. You've all, I hopefully, had a chance to look at the meeting minutes which were posted on the website. Can I have a motion that they be approved as rendered?
I'll make that motion. David Swan.
Motion by David Swan,
Second by Matt Rowe.
second by Matt Rowe. Any discussion concerning the minutes? Any edits, deletions, changes? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes as rendered on the website, please signify by saying aye.
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 Great.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, minutes are approved. Item number 5, review of the June 27th Policy Committee meeting.
Yes, sir. This is Becky Golden reporting out. The June 27th Policy Committee, the big item was the final presentation of the smart scale applications going in for those. These are the applications that are submitted by FAMPO and the George Washington Regional Commission. Localities make independent applications, but this was quite a process where the FAMPO and GWRC came together for a regional application, and they were presented by Carrie Barber. Mr. Aulis gave a presentation to the Policy Committee about a Safety Action Plan grant opportunity. I'll be giving a more detailed presentation to you this evening. That's a really fantastic opportunity that will, like I say, we have a presentation explain more. Ms. Coley Tizell and Mr. Aulis presented the results of the FAMPO Vision Survey. We want to thank everybody that received that for their input. And later, there will be a vision document presented as a result of that survey and later staff research. There were some transportation improvement program, they call it the TIP, amendments. The Policy Committee directed a public comment period for one of those TIP amendments, and it is not on your agenda, but we are working with VDOT this is actually a really good news amendment. There was an I-95 corridor improvement plan, and one of the improvements to I-95 was a commuter bus service to be provided from Fredericksburg area up to the core of Washington, D.C. So this TIP amendment that we are advertising for public comment now provide for 3 commuter buses. One of the routes would originate at the Massaponax or Spotsylvania interchange and go south to North Caroline County at the exit 110, the Ladysmith exit, pick up folks there, and then go all the way to the core of D.C. For commuter bus service. There were 2 other bus routes that will originate in Stafford County at those park and rides and go to D.C. And there's no service provider yet. They would purchase the rolling stock, the buses, and then put out for bid to a vendor to provide that service as far as drivers. There's now an OmniRide bus that originates in North Stafford and is very successful at that
The 610 lot?
The one at Garrisonville.
Right, the 610 commuter lot.
Yeah, something Borough.
Crawford.
Yes, Stafford Borough.
Stafford Borough, that's right.
Water tower.
And our team just recently went up the last 2 mornings to count slug rides for our travel demand model, and they reported those buses are just packed full from that Stafford Borough lot to go up to DC. So that is, we're not sure when that would be initiated, but that is what that public hearing and that TIP amendment provides for.
That's a good question.
Yes, please.
What was the slug count, just out of curiosity, since I've did it for 12 years? I wonder if it's...
Coley, would you like to report on the results?
Sure, yeah, this is Coley. There was, on the first day, over 200 people from just one lot. and about 180 or something cars, or, yeah. And then the second day, I'm not sure, because that was this morning, and,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
but that was just from one lot.
Yeah, that was the same
Yeah.
Stafford Borough lot. The other,
Yeah.
the Gordon Road and Old Salem Church lots, very few.
Yeah.
But that Stafford Borough lot
Yes.
where the commuter buses was just hopping, like I say, 200, counted.
Standing in line, yeah,
Yeah.
it's always, that's pretty consistent with what I
And
experienced.
very organized, and it really seemed like there were folks that knew, had familiarity,
Oh, yeah.
that it was, they consider it a carpool if you know in advance you're gonna pick up certain people.
Well, you can stop by the 25th person in line if that person's been riding with you for quite a while.
Yeah, there were quite a few that knew, what seat to get into.
Yeah.
So
People don't get upset about that. It's amazing how that works.
Yes,
It's pretty
yeah.
quick.
And all very organic. It's not at all a regulated activity.
Over the years, our biggest problem was not enough parking spots.
At Stafford, where
And
they
then
could
for the
speak.
longest time, a couple of years, state troopers would come in during the day and ticket anybody parked on the diagonal lines.
Oh, that were taking up more than
Yeah.
one space.
Well, they were parking in areas in those
Shoulders. They were parking on shoulders, yeah.
shoulders, yeah. And that happened up at, the big lot up at, Potomac Mills as well. I don't know how that lot is doing these days. I haven't been up there.
Prince William County.
Yeah, but that's a huge lot.
Mm-hmm.
But slugging works very well. It's just not, well, it hadn't been in the past acknowledged very much
Mm-hmm.
by VDOT.
Yes, and we were really proud of staff to go up and at 5 in the morning or 5:30, y'all got there. So it really took that physical getting up there to count the meeting.
Very good.
A pretty big item was approved in concept at the policy committee to add a non-voting member of the policy committee from the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, the BPAC. CTAC has a non-voting member role, and so in concept they proposed a BPAC representative, and the bylaw language change will be in Monday's August 15th agenda of the policy committee. The slate of officers for fiscal year 23, Jason Graham of Fredericksburg is the chair, Meg Baumke, the second vice chair from Stafford, and Tim McLaughlin, first vice chair, Meg Baumke from Stafford, second vice chair, Mr. McLaughlin from Spotsylvania. And that concludes my presentation of the policy committee.
Okay, any questions?
Yes, sir. Just one more. In my experience, I remember government, and this is a government grant, I guess, is what we're looking at. There are some laws that prohibit the government from competing with local businesses. And I'm just wondering if this is an exception maybe, or has been looked at by the attorneys that do that.
We're talking about the commuter bus business?
Yes.
It would be full procurement, a bid for the open public, because Marks used to provide bus service, and so Marks, we also have Bay Transit, that they provide different transit service down in the Northern Neck area, but it would be open for bidding, and Marks may well be, someone that would bid on it, as well as OmniRide. OmniRide is a quasi Potomac PRTC, but it would be an open bid for that bus service.
The reason I'm asking is because, if a vendor bids it, then I assume that the vendor will have to have the insurance
Absolutely.
and all of the necessary precautions.
Bonding and license.
Bonding and, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Another.
I don't know. I guess I wait to see the proposal for that, just to.
Yeah, apparently this is not a new It's new to our area, but, and that project is managed by the Department of Rail and Public Transportation,
Sure.
not VDOT, but DRPT.
DRP.
Another one of the routes will start at the Courthouse Road, Stafford County, new park and enlarged park and ride, and go from there up north from there.
Can I ask just one, this is Matt Rowe, question about the origination points of these. So there's going to be one that goes from 16 in Stafford. I'm assuming the other one is from 17 in Stafford, because you said there was 2 areas and we already have the similar service at.
They are, like I said, one will start at Spotsylvania Interchange, go south to Ladysmith, and then go straight up to DC. The other one will be at Courthouse Road, Park and Ride that we just talked about, to Capitol Hill Route 4 of DC. And then the other one is exit 133, which is.
That's 17.
That's 17.
Okay.
Yes, you are right.
So I guess that was my question. So it starts at Massaponax, goes down
There's 3
to
different
Ladysmith,
ones. That's one.
and then goes up.
Straight up to DC.
Why doesn't it start at Ladysmith and then go to Massaponax?
Because it wants to, apparently it wants to live and be housed at the.
Okay, so that's not a stop.
Right, it's an origination point.
Okay, so it goes down empty to Ladysmith, and
No, it'll pick up folks at Spotsylvania Interchange, wherever, that's its first stop.
They'll get to right-of-ways.
that's okay. That's interesting.
Yeah,
that you have to go.
That will not go well.
Very
You have to go 16 miles south into Caroline before heading up to DC.
Unless you really like Ladysmith, and no offense to Ladysmith, that's an extra.
They got that food line, you know.
Well, we're getting a Walmart and a Sheetz too. But I think it's it's where it is to be housed. Probably it will maybe even be housed as a Fred, it's part of the Fred.
Right.
It's where it wants to, where it wants to sleep at night, if you will.
Right. I don't know. That seems weird. I put a
It makes
little
more
flag
sense
on
to be
that.
housed there, drive to Ladysmith, make that the first stop,
Yeah.
then
Come to
work your way
Massaponax,
up.
stop 2, and then
Yeah.
go up.
Well, there may be something with the sources that they're looking at as vendors. They may be all up kind of around Fredericksburg here or towards Principal. May not be down in the Ladysmith area. So they probably wouldn't have as many bidders if you had to, purchase a garage or something down there to house your.
As a Caroline resident, I'm just glad we're getting a commuter
Yes.
bus to come to Ladysmith. I think that's pretty great.
It is a change.
I believe that is the logic to it, is that would be where it would be garaged.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, any other questions about the policy committee? Okay, do you have any members of the public who are present or online who would like to speak? You have 3 minutes if you care to speak at this time. You'll get another opportunity later.
Jane Leeds?
Yes,
Hello?
Jane?
Go ahead, Jane.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. The commuter bus, is it equipped to take on disabled wheelchair people? Will it have that equipment?
I can't answer that, Jane, and I will find out the answer to that question. That's a good one. That's a very good one.
Yeah.
And we're communicating with DRPT on a correction to that TIP amendment, and so we'll ask about that, as well as we'll ask about the route and whether I was correct on the going back and forth up and down from Ladysmith. So we'll follow up with that, and we'll send the answer out to everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
You say you're sending it out to everybody. Does that mean other agencies or the general public, or how is it going to be communicated to the general public that the commuter buses are available? Are they going to use newspaper articles? What?
When the system is deployed, there'll be a full public involvement effort. We were told at the technical advisory committee meeting that it may be years before this actually is deployed. This step, Jane, is to get the project in the transportation improvement plan. It's a very first step, but we were told at TAC that it may be actually a couple of years before we actually see it. And at that time, when it is deployed, Coley will be able to. John, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to.
John Rideout?
I'm going to stand up closer so folks online can hear me. So
Great.
For this amendment, all they're doing is solely earmarking the dollars for them to be able to go out to bid to purchase these buses, from my understanding. So at this point in time, it is they're allocating the fund for the buses with the TIP amendment and the details they're proposing. This is kind of what those buses are. With additional things, they can come back and make small changes, either to the origins and destination at a later time, because that would be changing a terminus point. That would actually come back through as a TIP amendment because, well, not necessarily for the purchase of the buses, but because it would be a change in scope from the termini. So that would actually trigger another amendment to come back and through the discussion.
And John, in your experience, is something like a new service like this, they make a pretty big deal out of the public announcement
Yes.
and so forth.
So for this part of the TIP process, they can't just say, well, they could, but they could just say new bus, but it would be very ambiguous. For this one, they are trying to provide additional information, kind of telling what those buses are, rather than saying we're purchasing 3 new commuter buses. We don't, at this point in time, it wouldn't be something like Fred would be purchasing buses. Although they would specify who and what it's used for. For this is just a line item for them to say, okay, we're going to earmark these funds and proceed because the dollars are there to spend.
David, just one question. I think by what you're saying, DPRT will own those buses. Well, they have the titles to those buses, and then a vendor will be chosen or bid to operate those buses. Okay.
Okay. Any other members of the public, online or present, wish to make a statement?
This is Coley. I have here 3 comments from members of the public. 2 of them are from Jane Lees, and 1 is from Jennifer Little. Would you like me to read them now or later?
If they're appropriate to one of our focus areas, wait till we discuss that. If it's a general comment, feel free.
Okay, they're general comments, so I'll read the one from Jennifer Little first. This is about the Lafayette Boulevard pedestrian and bike-friendly pathways. She says she'd love the idea and would appreciate it if it comes to fruition. However, I am disappointed that Spotsylvania doesn't appear to be on board with the southern section of Lafayette, where it is desperately needed. I live in Spotswood Estates area. We have a commercial building that housed a community center with a local church across the street and within the neighborhood and elementary school. I have witnessed parents with children trying to walk along and cross Lafayette. I have seen individuals trying to exercise, bike, walk along Lafayette. This should be part of the improvement project as well. The Spotsy section of Lafayette is a strode with an emphasis on Highway Business 1, promoting high-speed traffic, larger transport vehicles, and unnecessary bypass traffic through a suburban neighborhood, the Spotswood Estates. The project proposed only addresses a part of the issues faced by residents. Safety promoting walkable, bikeable neighborhoods should be a priority along the entire length of Lafayette. This includes traffic calming measures such as periodic traffic islands to keep aggressive drivers from using the center turn lane as a passing zone, streetscaping, multimodal pathways, and the complete street concept, and decreasing the speed to a max of 35 miles per hour the entire length of Lafayette from actual Highway 1 across the Fredericksburg city boundary. I realize this needs to be done in phases, but it defeats the larger purpose of the whole of the area is not improved.
Okay. Do we have did somebody volunteer for the pedestrian safety focus area?
I believe we do have a volunteer for each one, but I don't know which that is.
All right, Chloe, if you can get me a copy of that, either we'll get our member who's volunteered to reach out to the person, or I will.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Great.
And then I have 2 emails from Jane Leeds. I will read the first one that the FAMPO email address was sent on July 22nd. Looking for...
That was the mass transit?
Yes.
Yeah, when we get to the, that part of the agenda, we'll, that's on the second page, member reports, we'll have you pair up with Jane on the mass transit advocacy item 12 to read both those.
Okay, great. And the one that was sent...
I thought the one since August 5th was more general.
Yes.
And,
So there's two.
yeah.
Okay, you go ahead and read the general one.
This was the one that she thinks.
Okay.
They all. Do you want me to read that one?
I say so.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, great. Okay. So thank you, Jane, for these emails. They're great. So the one sent August 5th, I'll just read that one. Here's some food for thought for the CTAC members and stakeholders further down the line to chew on. Proof positive that if one thinks outside the box of federal aid and funding, that it can be done. How many times do I have to keep pushing this idea before everyone wakes up and realizes that it is time to start planning for Central Virginia's future transportation needs as we grow? Can we at least discuss this in order to try to look at what other cities have done to make it happen? In addition to this, by the time the system would be achieved, much if not all of the systems and driving of this transport will be done by robotics. The use of robotics will unfortunately stimulate the use of individual vehicles even more unless there is a viable, affordable, accessible, and efficient transportation system in place. Purchasing land rights, right-of-way, and potential sites for stations needs to be done soon before developers eat up potential use for the best routing of the transit lines. Or we will make the very expensive mistake that Fairfax County made with their Fairfax County Parkway development. A lot of time, money, and legal challenges resulted because the growth rate exceeded their planning. She includes a link, which we disseminated to all of you, and she asked that we share it to discuss during the mass transit portion of the meeting. She then says the infrastructure bill of 2021 was designed for the future, not the present issues, which exist due to the lack of planning decades ago. We need to learn from our mistakes. And then she sent another email about the VA facility here in Fredericksburg, and needs to ask the question, does the VA provide transport for its vets to medical and administrative appointments from their place of residence in the central region? If not, we need to prepare to have local transit available from their point of origin to the facility. The facility is designed, I am told, to create easy and safe access for those who are challenged on its campus. It's hard to judge just how many will be mobility challenged or have other limitations such as sight, hearing, and mentally or emotionally challenges due to injuries during their service. Financial challenges may also impact their ability to own and maintain a vehicle that may need special features. A main concern is for those who are in wheelchairs, riding them in the road because of the lack of contiguous sidewalks in Spotsy County and other counties puts them at high risk due to their low visibility to drivers of cars, trucks, and commercial vehicles. Drivers are often distracted and not watching for that kind of presence on the edge of the road. I'm also concerned about the low number of buses able to safely pick up and carry those whom are mobility challenged. Kneeling buses and those with lifts are not commonplace here due to the high cost of such vehicles. They are parceled out, but when riders request a diversion to a pickup place in advance of their trip. Because of the limited number, these vehicles are often overused and frequent maintenance problems can become an issue and deeply affect the accessibility and reliability of service. There's a need for a plan B, something to offer those riders without access to these circumstances. This all leads up to my next topic, mass transit planning. We can't wait on this. Growth happens fast, and I think that goes into her previous email. Because many larger cities have already created these systems, we can learn from them by looking at what they created and implemented. have the opportunity to consider their winners and losers in making their system work for their city's needs. I have forwarded information about these systems that I personally know of, but there are many others to look at. Truly, if you would take some time to study them, you will quickly discern the value and efficiency of such transit and wonder why you didn't see it before. The many reasons to create and use such systems grow exponentially. One very high moneymaker for these systems is that tourists love them. So true. Well, thank you so much, Jane, and we appreciate your comments.
I'll address a couple of those when we get to item 12.
Great.
Okay, any other comments from the public? Okay, old business. I wanted to go over the concept of the outer connector because it has evolved and there's unfortunately some misinformation floating around about it. As you remember, back in the March timeframe, we showed you some slides, I think it was like 4 slides, on a potential option for an eastern and western outer connector. And this committee, not unanimously, but by majority vote, said, well, go ahead and talk to the policy committee about it, which I did. I brought it up to them, the same 4 slides, and we got some feedback from them that said, well, you know, there's a cost component involved. Can you identify trade-offs? And we said, okay, we'll take a look at that. And can you look at options and alternatives for that eastern and western outer connector? I would say that it was generally well received and people wanted to know more. So on the basis of that, we've done some work, some of which you're going to see reflected here. And I wanted to make sure everybody is up to speed on the origins and where we currently stand. And again, the purpose of this was to give residents in this area the option to head north, all cardinal directions, without having to use the I-95 Route 1 choke point over the Rappahannock River. That was the genesis of this, and we wanted to maximize existing roads and avoid populated areas, because we didn't want to get into condemnation or anything else like that. And at the end of the day, I have to remind everybody, I know you all know this, but this body provides input to the policy committee, the elected representatives. We can't commit to anything. We have no authority to purchase anything. And so what we are is basically a sounding board and a transmission means from the concerns of the citizens to the policy committee about what people want to see and what their concerns are on transportation issues. And as I told you many months ago, it's no surprise that the single greatest issue that comes up in surveys is traffic. And you have merely to look at 95 Route 1 on a daily basis, let alone snowstorm, summer travel, or anything else like that to get an appreciation for that. So with that refresher course, I'd like to go over the things that we've done. Becky's going to chime in on some areas and let you know where we stand. And then I want to talk about another issue after that. So everybody recognizes this. Whatever way you go, there's a lot of moving parts. Different jurisdictions, not necessarily all FAMPO jurisdictions. So the goal is to get people to talk to one another and present some options to them so that they can go back to their elected leaders and get the necessary authorization in the form of comp plan changes, commitment of study funds, and things like that to move forward. And I think sometimes it's lost on people that that's really our function. We're an independent body that translates concerns, reference transportation, to the folks who make the decisions and gives them some things to think about and mull over. Okay, if you go to the next slide, please. Now, you saw this one. This is a particularly interesting one because Spotsylvania, I think, produced this, and all those black dots are population. And so whatever option you choose, you want to minimize the impact upon populated areas because you don't want condemnation, disruption, things like that. So if you remember, this is the second slide we showed you, the eastern connector Can we point out that line? All right, the eastern connector would originate roughly up in the Centerport Parkway area and use existing roads that have been improved, with the exception of one road that is shown as a dotted line on the Stafford comp plan.
Hold on, can I just, sorry, this eastern connector that we have here is different from the one that the CTAC was talking about.
Yeah, we'll show you that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, what this,
Yeah, there's the other one.
what this map is, are the VDOT outer connector options that were the preferred alternative from the VDOT outer connector study. And the one that Coley is pointing out now with their cursor, I apologize, just to orient you, starts at Centerport Parkway, Centerport and I-95, comes down to 218, and then courses through White Oak Creek behind homes there, and then points into, crosses the Rappahannock, and ends at 17, and stops there. It didn't get back to 95. It took traffic from I-95 down to 17. This, at the top, they call that the Berea Parkway extension, and goes from Centerport and across Able Lake, the homes of Able Lake, and pretty far, even past Berea Parkway to 17. Then it comes down to through occupied residences and through Spotsylvania County, again, just stopping at Route 3. So those adopted or preferred alignments they were utilizing Route 3 to get back to 95, and then utilizing 17, I guess, to get up to Massaponics interchange. And these other blue lines were an option, but the preferred option that's on the Stafford comp plan is that which Coley has drawn. And then this far western alternative was proposed, I believe, by Spotsylvania County due to the heavy impact through the county. Right now, Stafford's comp plan comes down and stops at the river. Spotsylvania's comp plan does not have anything in it. So we have one county's comp plan really aiming at a very populated area and really resulting in just getting back to Route 3, not really achieving anything. The Spotsylvania Far West alternative here that does come out to Orange County, this is Route 20 that goes to Charlottesville, and you'll see the CTAC alternative is proposing basically an extension of primary Route 20 to go straight up to 17, kind of off the map there. But you'll see that graphic later. Another thing I'd like to point out on this graphic, this magenta area all along the Rappahannock River and up through the draws and reaches of to the Rappahannock, the city of Fredericksburg has purchased a riparian easement all along there. And the purpose of that easement is to prevent sewage discharge from development that would foul the water quality, the drinking water that's drawn out of the Rappahannock River. So this is quite an ambitious we wanted, the Spotsylvania map makers wanted to acknowledge that riparian easement that Fredericksburg owns all the way up into Culpeper and Orange County to preserve water quality.
Now, we'll get into this a little later, but keep that in the back of your mind because there's an opportunity to take advantage of the funding source, and we'll talk about that, where Fredericksburg could improve the water quality by river restoration on the banks. Now, normally, in of itself, that probably wouldn't get very far. but since it's a corollary to a transportation improvement, there could be a pretty solid justification on the funding source that we're talking about, where money could be allocated to fix the banks and improve water quality, reduce sediment, and all the rest of that. So keep that in the back of your mind. I know you all took off for a month. I've been busy, so I'm going to bring you up to speed on what I've been doing. Okay. Now, you recognize almost all of this. This is the eastern connector, and that dotted line you see up there is reflected on the not dotted line, I'm sorry, the solid yellow line, and I'm colorblind, so bear with me. It is a dotted line in the Stafford Comp Plan, runs roughly south of Potomac Creek. You've seen that before. Then it would would join with Route 218, White Oak Road, and originally we showed you a road that would drop down to Port, first to Route 3, and then dogleg over to Port Conway Road, and I forget the name of the road that we showed you originally. After talking to the Prince or the King George County planners, they said, you know, it might be more beneficial if you move that further to the west, and so you now see Fletcher Chapel Road as the way to get from Route 218 down to Route 3, then you can dogleg over to Port Conway Road, and ultimately get down to Route 301. 301 is the option that gives people all sorts of possibilities. Once you're on 301, you can head north, go into Maryland. You can continue south into Richmond. You can connect to 217, go back to the west, but it gets you over the river with multiple options. So you've seen everything there except the shift of Fletcher Chapel Road. And again, you know, we suggested to the jurisdictions that we're looking at taking existing roads, with the exception of the one that would have to be built in the Stafford Comp Plan, and widening them and improving the line of sight, keeping them two-lane, unless the jurisdiction really wanted it before, but keeping them two-lane and improving with shoulders that would enable bicycle paths and things like that and improve the line of sight. All right, next slide if you would, please. Now let's turn to the western connector. Now there's a bunch of possibilities on this. It has to originate somewhere in Stafford on Route 17. And depending on where it originates, it can either cross one big river, the juncture of the Rappahannock and the Rapidan, which would put it into Spotsylvania County, or it would swing out further to the west and make two separate crossings in Culpeper. That's the proposal you saw originally and what the policy committee saw. It would then drop down to Route 3 in the vicinity of Route 20 and give people that same kind of option. You can head back to Fredericksburg, you can continue on to Charlottesville, you can go any number of directions. Again, it gives you different opportunities. All right, next slide, please. Now, after talking to the folks out at Culpeper, they had some concerns. Their concerns were, well, we don't want to have a whole lot of sprawl in that portion of Spotsylvania County, which is understandable. And the land is probably better than we initially thought. It perks, it could be developed, and so on. So after talking to them, we came up with some possibilities, and we'll talk about those in just a second. Also, when we talked to the folks in Orange County, we discovered that they have a substantial development going in the vicinity of Route 3 and State Highway 20, about 3,400 homes, mixed use, and so on. And they were receptive to the idea of giving their people an option of heading up to the northeast and avoiding the I-95 Route 1 corridor. Now, bear in mind, they're in a different metropolitan planning organization. So again, it throws a few other kinks into the recommendations, and it would require jurisdictions to talk to one another. What a surprise. So at least those seeds have been planted. Now, I think on the next slide, we'll,
It's just sort of a blow-up of the new eastern connector.
yeah, if you go to the next one, please. And one more. Okay, one thing that we talked about, and we offered this for Culpeper County's consideration is, you have three primary roads that hit into the area where they're very much concerned about sprawl. If you were to pay the money for limited access rights of way, you could basically put an overpass over those roads, and as long as the jurisdiction didn't want it to occur, you couldn't connect to this road because there is no on-off ramp. So it is a way of getting a thoroughfare and yet prohibiting sprawl if the jurisdiction is so interested in doing. And so we offered that to them for their consideration also. And it would look something like you see the picture in the lower right-hand corner.
Kind of like how they do for Celebrate Virginia Parkway and Stanford Drive.
Absolutely. And you know, with these proposals, if the jurisdictions ultimately wanted to start with 2 and go to 4, that's their call. If they want to maximize limited access rights of way to minimize the possibility of sprawl, it involves a little bit more money, but we propose to spend other people's money, and it's an option. Again, all we're trying to do is present viable options for planners and elected officials to consider. We don't dictate anything. We make concepts that they can then consider. Next slide. Now, here's the definition. All of this is in the slide presentation in your agenda, so I'm not going to bore you, but there is the definition in the Code of Virginia for limited access. And it can be vacated by the jurisdiction if they so choose. Of course, they'd have to pay for on and off ramps, but it's a wonderful tool, provided the funding source is there, to pay for additional easements so that you can prohibit people from taking advantage of these connectors and encouraging sprawl. Next one, please. I think you've seen this one. Is there anything you'd like to mention?
So let me, we saw the earlier view that was a map done by Spotsylvania County. This is in the Stafford County Comprehensive Plan, and these dash roads are considered concept roads. So just to orient you, when we talk about the ideas that CTAC is proposing, it would be an alternative. And you'll see in the very next slide an idea for Plantation Drive Extended. So right now, I'll kind of do finger and you can point with the eastern connector starts here at Centerpoint Parkway, or Centerport I-95, and what CTAC proposed is an alternative that generally follows the comp plan adopted, trying to find 218, but here we go. But this option, when we looked at it against the mapping, impacts quite a few things. And there is a route that you saw some jigs and jogs in yellow that we found that impacts 0 homes and gets you to 218. And then the idea that you just saw on Fletcher's Chapel and Fort Conway Road are an alternative to this line. So this line is in the map on the Stafford plan, and it gives a connection from 218 down to the Rappahannock River. So in Stafford's comp plan, of course, they stop at the Rappahannock River and they don't go on into Spotsylvania. So from 218 down to the river, the Fletcher's Chapel Road is an option that is here and takes an existing road over in King George County. Fletcher's Chapel Road, they have a nice park on Fletcher's Chapel Road. There's a traffic signal at Route 3 in Fletcher's Chapel Road, so that makes a lot of sense. And then this leg from 3 to the river is over, and that's what Port Conway Road gets you over to 301. So if you will, what you're proposing is an alternative to what's already in the plan. You'll see the Plantation Drive extended in the very next slide. That is an option to, just to orient you on the map. Pull it down. Oh, there you go. Orienting myself again to Center Port. It is an option that what you'll see in the next slide is an option to this sweeping line and this one. So this orients you to what you'll see in the next slide as an option to, in lieu of the sweeping line. This map also shows you this is Able Lake, and the citizens that live on Able Lake, I've found in articles doing research, have concerns with the impact of that. And then the option that you saw from the western connection from Orange County straight up to 17 is the option in lieu of this line. And you can see again in this map, I like it because it shows this is the Rocky Run Reservoir, and this is that line that was from the preferred option of DDOT. So the idea is in lieu of this, it would be the alignment that comes through there, and right where that arrow is, and there are 0 homes in Stafford County between 17 and the Rappahannock River here.
And after talking to the Spotsylvania folks and the Culpeper folks, jurisdictions have to agree. You know, the elected official have to say, we want to do this, or we want to modify it, or whatever. If the Culpeper routing were not to occur, then Spotsylvania and Stafford have to find something where they can meet, cross the river, minimize the impact. They're talking to one another, which is a great thing. I have no idea what's going to come of this. We'll show you our meetings and progress to date in a little bit. But again, just getting people to talk and consider alternatives, which is really what we're about, has been very interesting. Okay, next one, please.
Right.
Okay, Matt, would you like to talk about this?
Right, so this was the original map that I had suggested, and then I had an update to that, because this is the one where it's a simple red line, and it kind of cut a little bit close to a few homes. This was the quick and dirty version. The other one, the red line drops a little bit farther to the south, but basically the idea is that it would be a Centerport Plantation connector. So you see Centerport Parkway up there at the top middle, and it's got that 90-degree turn as it heads up to the distribution centers that they just built. So the idea is that there would be some kind of intersection there. The new road would drop south, be some sort of, you know, limited access in terms of, you know, you're not putting homes or businesses on this road. This is a connector road. Might have a intersection with Hull's Chapel around where Enon has its curve near the cemetery, then drops down to Plantation. This is very similar to what the Stafford Comprehensive Plan has right now. Their idea has it going from Centerport to that curve on Enon, but the only downside to their plan as it's currently drawn is that it has a couple of left turns that you have to jog through to get over to Plantation. The only thing that's different about mine is that it moves a little bit further to the northwest so that when Plantation and this connector meet, it's there at Truslow at a four-way intersection of some sort. So it provides for easier flow, and the idea is that instead of people having to only use exit 133 in this area, they would have an exit 136 option to get to 95. There is no way to get from the southern part of the county to the northern part of the county between Route 1 and all the way up past Able Lake. This is like a gap in connectivity, and it would solve that. Potentially.
David Swan, question. Do you know the zoning, the existing zoning of that area?
I'll have to look it up. When I looked at it last time, there was, in between Holmes Chapel and Truckload, that's zoned residential. There is one very large parcel between Holmes Chapel and Centerport. My assumption, I'm guessing, I think it is zoned, it's not residential, but it is a very large parcel. So
Multi-use or commercial?
it could be something like that.
And at crossing Holmes Chapel could be one of those restricted access right-of-ways, if they so choose to do that, so that you don't promote development in that area and, right, where the tree out.
It might be worth it just to look, you know, at some of the zoning map, just to see, because, you know, you gotta trust people, but past performance is not so great, because if they can make it residential, they'll build and they will come and populate the houses.
Okay.
So we don't want to create opportunities where they shouldn't be.
Exactly, and there you see that limited access right-of-way that could be over Holmes Chapel Road. Again, decisions from the localities as to how they want to handle these kind of thoroughfares. But the same kind of concept, minimize or eliminate sprawl where it's not intended to occur.
Yeah, it would be up to Stafford how they want to connect or not connect with Holmes Chapel. Because, you know, you could do this, you could do a roundabout, you could do the thing, I think VDOT has a better term for it, but I've seen it called the Michigan left, where you go up and U-turn to do
It's
your left
anything
turn.
like the 610 interchange, the Lazy W, they come up with.
Oh, the diverging diamond. No, it's not the diverging diamond.
But again, this is just another option to stimulate thought from planners primarily and let them tee up recommendations to their elected officials. Okay, next one, please. And you just see where it's depicted. Next one. And next one. It looks like we have a couple of duplicates. Okay, here's where the money could come from. In the National Infrastructure Project, there is a mega grant program, and you can look this up online. And it's $5 billion of basically free money. It has some criteria in that, and if you can get multiple jurisdictions and an MPO involved, and it has transportation enhancements, you're a candidate. Now, at the policy committee, they were talking about, I think Washington, D.C. submitted a project to get 2 bridges over the Potomac to minimize congestion on the rail lines going into and from D.C. That's the kind of thing that could be done. Now, this, I believe, could also be used to fund the magenta you saw on the map of the Rappahannock for bank improvement, erosion and sedimentation minimization or elimination, and could be rolled up into something like this. Again, this is something for the jurisdictions to consider, but this money ain't going to be around too long, because I'll bet there are a lot of folks that are considering submitting things, and I think we would have a very good shot at it. So this is the funding source. It would not require anybody to eliminate a project in the FAMPO current long-range transportation plan. It merely requires FAMPO to endorse it. Yes, sir.
Quick clarification. When you're talking about the bank improvements, does that increase possibility for crossing at those banks, or what is the benefit from transportation standpoint to the bank?
I think you could sell it from the standpoint of, if you're putting a bridge somewhere, you don't want the bridge to do any harm.
Right.
And this could be a corollary to ensure that the building of a bridge is a negative impact on the environment.
Okay.
And I think that would be the justification. There are smarter people out here who could figure out the right words, but I think that could sell. All right.
May I interject real quick? To answer your question, all those parcels are zoned A1 with the exception of one R2 parcel. Thank you.
That's pretty good. And knows how to do stuff on his iPhone. That's great. Okay, so here's what's been done. I told you at our last meeting about the visit to Orange and Culpeper counties. I went out in June while you were all having summer break on to King George, and I think it was Supervisor Binder was present at the meeting and told them about the concept, asked for their feedback, and their feedback indicated that Fletcher Chapel Road was a better north-south connector from 218 down to 3 than, to 3 than what we'd indicated originally. And so that's why you saw that change on the slide. Met with the Spotsylvania planners on the 13th and said, you know, if Culpeper is not willing to go along, what are the options between you and Stafford County? So they're looking at that. Again, recommendations, asking them for feedback. Next one. Okay, we had hoped to talk to the Stafford Planning Commission on the 27th. That got delayed at the last minute. King George has indicated they'd like to hear from us sometime in August and talk to them in conceptual terms about what's going on. And the Culpeper County executive said, you know, we're going to have a public input period sometime this fall about soliciting changes to our comp plan. Would you like to talk to us at that? And we said, absolutely. So that the decision makers, the elected officials, could take these kinds of inputs, weigh them, chew on them, and then decide which way to go. Okay, I think that's our last slide. All right, so this is in your packet. That's where we stand. Now, I need to talk to everybody about something that's going on that some of you may or may not be aware of. All of the Stafford CTAC members got a request for electronic communications. And I need to give you a little background material without getting too specific so I can put this all into context for the entire committee. When I indicated to the committee that I was going to run for re-election, I did so because I wanted a little bit of continuity so I could continue to move forward on this project. And as I mentioned to you, we're not supported as well as the policy committee, and I was willing to do the work. Shortly after that got around, I received an email from the Stafford County Supervisor that said, if you run for re-election, you will be eliminated as the representative. And I tried to explain to the Stafford County Supervisor that there is precedence for a person to succeed themselves. The bylaws clearly allow that to occur, and why my motivation was to run. That supervisor would have none of it and demanded that I resign, which I obviously did not do and was elected by you unanimously on the 8th of June. After that, I was communicated and to the effect that if you don't resign, we will bring you up in front of the board and remove you with all of the attendant publicity and shame and break my saber and all that other good stuff. And I don't know if those of you are familiar, but the only way a person can be removed from a board and commission in Stafford County prior to the completion of their term is for cause. For cause implies wrongdoing, improper behavior, and in my opinion, to accuse somebody of that is defamatory at the bare minimum. So I have no idea what will happen later on this month. The FOIA requests are moving forward. I have sent communications to the entire board as to my position. I don't know if I will be here for the next CTAC meeting, but rest assured that I think this body has an important role to play as an independent voice, not to be told what to say and what to do by officials. We get too much of that in Washington. Our job is to provide our best reasoned opinion and recommendations so that the decision makers can ultimately act upon those. I wanted to bring everybody up to speed so that you know what's going on. I have no idea what will occur, but those of you who know me know that I will not go gently into the good night. So I'm not going to take any questions because this will be probably litigation at some point in time, but I wanted you to know what is going on behind the scenes and why the Stafford members of CTAC got your FOIA requests. If you have any questions of me or you'd like to talk to me offline, we can do so one-on-one, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware because this goes hand in hand to that. There's been a lot of misinformation about this, and I wanted to take you through the history of where we were, where we started back in March up until today, and just so you, so you understood. Okay, good.
Do I understand now FOIA requests are coming from the Stafford County Board of Supervisors?
No, they're coming
from citizens.
They're coming from an external agency.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess what we can...
To Stafford County?
To Stafford County.
FOIA.
That's right. I think they were sent to all this, some supervisors, the board as a whole. They concerned me, and...
you weren't mentioned in any of the correspondence that I saw. It was just a FOIA.
I mean, I don't want to comment on what was found or not found, but...
The only correspondence I had was with Becky and Ian regarding my position. But I can tell you right now, I want to go on the record as saying I'm going to take a different position tomorrow. And I'm going to become active against this FOIA request because I think it's unwarranted. I don't see any purpose. And I'll say it right now. If the politicians in this county, the elected politicians, supervisors, would do their jobs and communicate with Orange, King George, Spotsy especially, Culpeper, and the city of Fredericksburg Council, we wouldn't have this problem. We're in effect doing their jobs. And if they would like us to continue that, then they ought to back off. Now, I'm on the record for that, and that's David Swan, just to be clear. I represent Hardwood. I've lived here a long time. I know every one of those supervisors. And I'm going to talk to them.
I appreciate your comments. I didn't mean for this to turn into a FOIA, non-FOIA debate, but
I know more about it.
But I just wanted to let everybody know what's going on. And if you don't see me next month, that's why. But you'll probably read about it.
Well, I'm glad David did say something because I've been getting emails also, and I didn't know what it was about, and I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
And they said it was due today at 12 noon.
It was originally due the 1st of August.
Good for you. It was extended, which is suspicious to me because you only have a period of time by law to respond to a FOIA. And you've got to go to lengths to get an extension on that. And I'd like to see the audit trail on that, for starters.
I'm sure all of this will come out. And again, please, I didn't mean to turn this into a discussion of the law, but just so you know why those emails came out, and I would ask everybody to preserve your records, because more to follow. Okay.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Okay. Well, that was an exciting number.
Related question, but not specifically to you. Speaking of record, is there any way or avenue through which we can obtain CTAC emails?
CTAC's what?
CTAC emails? Because the FOIA request, by my understanding, and admittedly I'm a lawyer, but by my understanding, my personal email is not subject to legal action. Is a FOIA problem. Is that correct?
No.
Well, I'm not an expert. If it's relevant to the request, you have to comply. If it's not relevant, then it really isn't. You know, if you had a...
I submitted all relevant materials. I'm not ready to take a
Understand.
anything. But I would feel more comfortable if I had a separate email, since I've been using personal email for what it is. Is this something that's just on ourselves as individuals, or is it something that maybe could be pursued down the line?
and that was Mr. Kwatnowski, asking that question for the captioner. And let me just verify, are you, asking that, would, FAMPO provide, an email server addressed to CTAC members? Is your question this? I'm just going to go ahead and ask it. Is your question whether in that way then you would have not, you wouldn't have to use your personal email? Is that your question?
For example, I have, as I mentioned, I'm a history teacher. Through my employer, I have a work email because
Cool.
that is also subject to FOIA.
Okay.
And that means, so that way I can keep personal matters separate from
Work matters.
public matters.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if there's some way we can do that through CTAC as well.
I don't believe so, but I'll check. I'm fairly certain that as a volunteer on this advisory committee, that the expectation is that you would use your personal or work email. Again, my understanding of FOIA inquiries is that very specific. They're asking, for example, and when a FOIA request is made, it can be made by a citizen or anybody. It doesn't have to be an attorney or a reporter to get the attention. So anybody has the ability to inquire. And that inquiry, in this case, I believe, went to the clerk of the Board of Supervisors. And so I'm drawing a box here. So the whoever the requester is requests, I would like copies of correspondence relating to this subject or between these people. And that's only what you have to provide. And if there were no communications with you, it's perfectly appropriate to say, I don't have any emails related to this inquiry. And that's perfectly appropriate. And the idea is, and I try to tell myself, my employees, and anybody that works with me, I personally make sure that every email I send could be on the front page of the newspaper. And
Which is a good rule of thumb.
And if it's something of an emotional nature or something, or you want to have a conversation, pick up the telephone and call and talk to somebody. But you know, any written email I send,
Or text.
Yeah. I spend an extra couple of minutes reading it again. If there was some tone in it, I step away from it. And I always tell people this too: the written word is cold, and so just know that inflection, voice, warmth, fear, or angst. It's so much better to talk to someone over the phone than to have that already ice cube-like written word. It's already going to be cold when you send it. So I try to make sure that at the end of the day, I can, you know, if you want to get my emails, have at it, and have no fear in that regard.
With regard to your question, we'll get some kind of guidance as to, is it feasible to have a CTAC? I don't know. Without belaboring the legality and the finer points of FOIA, all I would say is, this is not over, so please preserve your communications, because I would not be surprised if additional requests come out as other factors are introduced. Okay, last one.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead online.
Go ahead. Who's on? All right. Who is this?
Yeah, this is Dave McLaughlin, Mr. Chairman. Could you clarify a little bit? Has any of this discussion about whether you should be on the board or you're any of that kind of stuff, has that come up at any public meetings, or has all this been other discussions that have not been publicly recorded, such as at a superintendent's meeting?
As far as I am aware, this has all occurred between or among people and not in the light of day, which is probably the reason for the FOIA request to find out what coordination was occurring. Does that answer your question, Dave?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Any other questions? Last one.
Dave Swan. My voice here, so bear with me. I don't believe the FOIA request had the specificity it needed to be able to respond, for a reasonable person to respond. I have no idea, after reading the FOIA request, what in the hell it was about, or what I was going to respond to. Therefore, I did not respond. I notified FAMPO that I had received the FOIA request. And that was the only action that I felt authorized to take. Now, if I had some interchange with any member, which we limit anyway because of the meeting rules, I mean, this is a case where the Commonwealth's rules or the federal rules come back to haunt them. And so I don't feel obligated to respond. And if they want me to respond, then you can contact my lawyer, because I'm going to respond through my lawyer if that's the case. If they're trying to pose some legal finding and take some action, it appears to be unauthorized action at this point, because it hasn't been raised in a forum worthy of doing that, and it's unheard of here. And I've been on this board since 2016, and I paid attention. So if you want to fight, I'm ready. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
I got one other thing. It's James Powell. I'm going to second everything Dave just said. I don't know what this request is about. I don't know who the request came from. So why am I responding?
Yeah.
That's my attitude. That's going to continue to be my attitude. I don't know if it's one supervisor, two supervisors, but until I find out, just like Dave said, what it's completely about, why am I responding? And I'm done.
And this is Glenn Goldsmith. I also agree with both of you gentlemen. That's the approach I took. The context and the content by which the request was written, it wasn't specified. You know, there was not a lot of specificity behind it. So nor did I choose to respond to it. Nor that I notified people on the CTAC team that I did not have any response, and that is the reason why I chose to do that. So I just wanted to add that in there also.
Okay. Last chance. Let's move on to 7B.
VDOT report a problem. If anyone, we have a standing old business issue, and if anyone has put in a VDOT work order request for maintenance and has not received a reply, you can let us know, and we'll follow up with VDOT.
Okay. I'm behind. I need to do a couple, but I'll let you know how they work out.
Okay, great.
Okay.
On to the
discussion. We're going to talk about item 8, Safe Streets Grant Safety Application.
Okay, and I'll tell you what, we'll go pretty quickly through those slides when Coley gets it up there. This is a grant opportunity that is for a safety action plan to be prepared through the Infrastructure Act for either the FAMPO jurisdictions. We potentially hope that all the George Washington Regional Commission localities will participate. Next slide. We have a great timing opportunity. VDOT Central Office, the Highway Safety Improvement folks are going around to all the planning district commissions in the state. They are beginning to work on a portion of what will be in the safety action plan, doing crash data analysis and identifying high injury networks. They are doing this work at no cost to us. The value of it is about $30,000, and that is federal money that runs through VDOT for the safety folks to do that. And they are going to include all 5 George Washington Regional Commission localities for this analysis. Next slide. And that link, when you go to that presentation, takes you to an FHWA site that tells you about a local road safety plan and what you'll end up getting for it. This slide shows the gold boxed areas of 3 and 5. That is the outcome of the VDOT work that can be used for the safety action plan. And there are the other required things that need to be in the plan are a comprehensive set of projects and strategies, number 7, and the development of the plan within the last 5 years. The other metrics on there, is up in the upper right, you need to fulfill 3 and 7 and 9, and at least 4 of the other 6, so 5 for the planning elements. We'll get to that in a little bit. Next slide, please. What we would consider, and we've received pricing from 2 of our 2 on-call consultants as far as what a safety action plan, it would be a consultant work, not staff done, and it requires a 20% local match. And next slide. So the rough cost, we think, for the total cost will be about $120,000. That is about a $24,000 local match. Next slide. And depending on whether option A for the FAMPO jurisdictions or option B, which are all 5 GWRC jurisdictions, this would be the local share based on population proration that they would be committing to. The Technical Advisory Committee recommended moving forward with option B, but only including the localities that are willing to provide their requisite match based on participation. It's viable for 1 or 2 or 3. It doesn't have to be all of them. But last night, Caroline County approved participation, and we hope that King George County is going to their board and will do so as well. This is just, we wanted to make sure that this work is included in our Unified Planning Work Program, and it is. That's just the section in the UPWP for which it is thus stated. We do have 2 resolutions, 2 options for you this evening to see what your preference is with regard to participation. Option A is a resolution to endorse only the FAMPO jurisdictions. The option B resolution is for all 5 GWRC. And also there's a correction to both the presentation materials and resolution. We will be asking for a safety action plan and not a supplemental safety action plan that is in your version of the resolution. And that concludes my presentation. Are there questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Matt.
This is Matt Rowe. So if we did option B, and for some reason King George decided they didn't want to participate, would we need to come back and do something again, or would that money just get evenly distributed amongst the other 4 localities based on population?
Yes, that's a good question. What we would do is take that same, let's say for an example, that maybe even the city of Fredericksburg decided not to participate. You take those who wish to participate, take their populations, and you would split the 24,000 match among those who wish to participate. Gotcha.
So that option B automatically does that. We don't have to come back to the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sort of an umbrella that covers the lesser options should they.
Well, you raise a good point. Just to prevent having to do this again, if the wording said for all participating localities in the George Washington region with costs on a prorated by population basis.
Yes.
Yes.
And that would, I think, help, and we wouldn't have to come back and do that. And at a bare minimum, it will be 3 if they go with option A or B, and it potentially up to 5.
Great. So let me read what would be a proposed amendment to the therefore be it resolved. We would say that now therefore it be it resolved, the Fredericksburg Metropolitan Planning Organization supports the filing of an SS4A grant application by all participating GWRC localities by the September 15th deadline.
Yeah, would you accept that?
That's perfect.
Okay. All right, so first, do I have a motion that we amend option B's resolution to reflect that?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Dave seconds, Matt Rowe made the motion.
Swan, second.
Okay, any discussion on the proposed change for the option B resolution?
And friendly amendment to also eliminate the word supplemental in the last whereas clause.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Did you say eliminate the word?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's go ahead and call for a vote on the amended option B resolution. All those in favor of the language being modified as you just heard, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that resolution is amended as passed. And now we call for a vote on which of the 2 resolutions we would endorse to the policy committee.
Well, this is Matt Rowe. I'll make a motion to endorse option B, and my reasoning, well, I'll wait till discussion.
Okay?
David Swan, I'll second that motion.
David Swan seconds. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
I'll just say, since Caroline already said that they want to participate in this, going with option A would preclude them from even doing so, so I would like to go with option B.
You're our substitute Senate parliamentarian. That's very good. Okay, so any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to
All
make,
those,
yeah, I would like to discuss this. I would suggest, this is Dave McLaughlin calling in from WebEx. I would suggest this subject is a lot like solving world hunger. It's huge. So a safety for all, a great safety plan. In my opinion, the more communities and agencies and landscape that we take on under this effort is going to hurt us. It's going to be just diluted over a larger population and a larger land mass. So I intend to vote against resolution 2302, option B, as opposed to option A, because it limits the money. I mean, there's only so much money that's going to be spent on this plan, and that limits what is attributed to and what is put towards. And I think that's significant.
okay, thank you, Dave. Is there any other discussion? Go ahead, please.
Larry Gross.
Larry Gross. I'm still trying to understand, but if I go to this, the slide that the FWHA slide, and it says local road safety plans, and it says a local road safety plan provides a framework for identifying, analyzing, and prioritizing roadway safety improvements on local roads. So that doesn't sound like a bad thing to me, to be able to look at 5 or 6 projects and get them prioritized. And it might help you on smart scale too, if you submit a smart scale application and you use this as what you did, part of what you did to get to the prioritization. So I'm not quite sure what Dave's complaint is. I kind of like what this sounds like. It sounds like more planning, better planning, more prioritization.
Dave Swan, I know exactly what Dave's talking about, and I agree with, in principle, what he's saying, that the option B dilutes the amount of money through 5 jurisdictions by 3. But I think that B, for me, I'd be more in favor of B because of the collaborative nature between jurisdictions. Because that's something we're weak at, is collaborating with one another. We're more divisive, and this world has got enough diversity in it right now. If we can break that
Or at least
trend,
help break it, yeah.
yeah, help break it with this. It may not be as lucrative a deal, but it might be something we can build on longer
Yeah,
range.
people might start talking to one another.
Yes.
Yes, and the grant award information, and also John Rideout has experience from the MPO in the Carolinas where he just came from. But the grant information and the advice we're getting from the VDOT HSIP folks is that the more localities that are in your supplemental or in your safety action plan application, the more successful it's going to be. I will be honest with you, however, the type of projects that are going to come out of this are going to be probably more in the rural parts of Stafford, Spotsylvania, Caroline, and King George. Shoulder hardening, and I was witness to a near fatality on Tidewater Trail coming to work. I've done safety training for 3 years at UVA. So the rural areas, particularly the coastal plain soils of King George and Caroline that ravel away from those shoulders, even on 208 in Spotsylvania, there's a section there right by the VDOT headquarters that does not have the paved shoulder. That's the site of a 5-people fatality when I was working for UVA. Because there are people going down there, they're maybe hauling their boat to Lake Anna. It's 55 miles an hour. It is just
And they're doing
12-foot lane, and when they get off on that shoulder, and what happens, and it's FHWA research, your tire literally explodes like a bomb when it comes back on that edge, and it is then forced into the other lane of traffic. So, you know, there are potentially urban type of projects where you might have pedestrian fatalities, but I will be honest that it's going to be more the rural roads that are going to be prioritized. The other thing this will do, the grant requires that you consider equity and transportation equity, and so underrepresented low-income areas and census tracts are going to help in the prioritization system. Your safety action plan is going to have a group of people that include fire, EMS, the state troopers, the education system. We've got to include a full breadth of not only hard countermeasures, but those of the National Highway Transportation Safety Association, NHTSA, that look at human behavior countermeasures, education in the schools, and ways to get the message out. Actually, it will also improve training of pedestrian safety, how to teach people to wear...
Point of order.
Go ahead, Dave.
We have a motion on the floor. It's not the time for staff. It's not the time for staff to go and repeat and just further to explain what's going on.
You're right.
Furthermore, thank you, Dave, for trying to, Dave Swan, to kind of interpret because you thought you knew what I understood, and you kindly did. But here's...
I think I do.
Here, it's my turn to talk. And here is my point. And Larry, I don't disagree with you. I actually don't disagree with anything Becky said. I don't agree with any of that. It's just a matter of scale. All of those principles you talked about, rural roads and equal for everybody and all of that is very, very true. It all applies. Stafford and Spotsylvania got tons of rural roads. The issue in my mind is where is the concentration of population Therefore, where is the population or where is the concentration where the safety issues are? It is not as much in the diverse counties. Therefore, I'm not disagreeing with the principle in any way at all. I'm just saying if we consolidate it down to fewer communities, there would be much more bang for our buck by this process of planning and concentrating on areas where the biggest threat or opportunity is and where the biggest impact would be. That's all I'm saying. I'm not disagreeing with any of the rest of what you guys have said.
Dave, this is Hank Sharpberg. I sustain your point of order. Okay. Any other comments or discussion?
This is John Castellarin. Dave, I'm actually looking at it when I was looking at it at home. I was in agreement with you, and honestly, $120,000 doesn't seem like enough to do much anything in any one of these locations, let alone 3 to 5. But getting it, I think right now the big problem is finding out Caroline's already approved. For me, it's a matter of looking at it saying, are we going to pull it out from them? I mean, Caroline's only going to get, what, 10 grand? If my calculation's right there, almost a little under 10 grand, and I don't know what they're really going to be able to do with the 10 grand other than look and say, hey, there's a road. I would have been all for option A, but having Caroline already said yes, it's hard to say for us at this point. Yeah, let's just go with one. Let's encourage one over the other because it doesn't sound like they really waited for us.
Any other comments?
One more. You got full crash data from VDOT, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Aggregate the crash data for each county.
Yeah.
It's not going to cost you that much if VDOT helps you.
Yeah, this is just a cost of the study and participation.
I'd say both sides of it.
Remember, this is safety, so.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? All right, so the motion's on the table to accept option B with the language as modified. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I'm opposed.
We were waiting, Dave.
We got you, Dave.
Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay,
John.
One abstention? Okay, the motion carries.
good.
All right, item
You have another public, flip your page there.
4, the travel demand model.
Oh, yes, sorry about that. I tried skipping one. Great, we'll go quickly through this. This is just a brief view that staff is working with VDOT to update our travel demand model. That is something that was done back in 2015 with our update of our long-range transportation plan back then. So we have updated and looked at all of our projects that are active under construction or design and determined in-service dates or when they're supposed to be finished. And then we provided the latitude, longitude of the start and end locations. And we have completed the work, including the transit ridership follow-up. So this is just to let you know we're working with VDOT. We've finished our work, and they are looking at updating that congestion model that's in the long-range transportation plan to incorporate projects since 2015 and through the 2050 planning horizon.
Okay, any questions of Becky on that item? Okay, item number 9, second public comment period. Anybody, a member of the public present or online, wish to make a comment or any written comments that have not already been read? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public comment. Correspondence?
Yes, I failed to provide, Mr. Farley provided a New York Times opinion columnist article about congestion pricing, and we will send that with follow-up items to all of you. I'll just read a small piece of it. It's written by Ezra Klein. In 2019, the New York legislature, with support of Cuomo and de Blasio, approved a traffic congestion pricing plan for New York City. The plan was simple enough. Starting in 2021, it would cost money to drive into the busier areas of Manhattan. The revenue would be used to improve public transit across the region. But New Yorkers are still waiting. Congestion pricing is technically complicated. It doesn't require major new infrastructure. It's largely a question of hanging sensors on poles. But I'm told that the likely launch date for New York's congestion pricing program, which again passed in 2019, is now sometime in 2024. And as I say, we wanted to acknowledge that, and we will send that out tomorrow. Coley, is there any other correspondence? No, there are none.
Okay, any staff reports?
Only to introduce John Rideout, who's here this evening, and we did that during roll call.
Under member reports, the traffic mitigation, the big one obviously is the East-West Connector Study. Matt, do you have anything to add?
No.
Anybody else have anything to add on that? Or I know we haven't had the chance in the last month and a half to meet. Mass transit advocacy. Two things, actually three things. One, Tamara Banks, I hooked her up with the transportation planner in Caroline County because the question came up about bus service. She is going to meet with them when she gets back from this conference. She's going to, and hopefully we'll be able to report back at the next meeting. Two other things too, and this is sort of addressed to the comments from the public specifically. Jane, I think mass transit advocacy will be actively considered in the East-West mobility study and what opportunities we have to incorporate light rail or dedicated bus lines or whatever, and use that as a beginning blueprint for how do we start transitioning to the aspects of mass transit. The second aspect I will tell you is Stafford just convened a $750,000 transportation study that is supposed to look at all of this stuff in 3 phases. And as we have, I've seen the statement of work. It's a very involved study, and as we get more feedback, we'll provide that to the group. Anybody want to add anything to mass transit advocacy? Okay, safety. Anybody want to add anything to that? And I'll get with Becky and we'll sort of rejuvenate our list of volunteers. I appreciate the folks who came out tonight in the very adverse weather, and we'll see who we can get to come next time. All right. Any other comments from anybody, any other member, present or online?
This is Rupert. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I was following by closed caption since the beginning of the meeting, and didn't get onto the roll call because my phone wasn't working at that point. Thanks.
Great.
Yeah, we've got you, okay? Any other comments from anybody? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Rowe has made the motion. Second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much for coming out on such a dismal night.